Kia ora and welcome to the Creative Matters podcast, where we have inspiring conversations with New Zealand artists. I'm your host, Mandy Yarkich. These conversations are intimate, uplifting and insightful. The guests on the show have absolutely enriched my life, and I'm sure their stories will have the same effect on you. Thank you so much for joining me to listen to these amazing people speak about what drives them, the way they work, and their personal takes on life. Kia ora and a very warm welcome back to Season 5 of the Creative Matters podcast. It's so nice that you could join me again. I am super excited to be starting another season, and I've got a fantastic lineup of guests for you, and I hope you can join us for the rest of the season. So let's get started. This is episode 98, and we are talking to Andrew J. Steele. Andrew is a New Zealand contemporary artist with a passion for storytelling. Over his career, he has worked across the mediums of graffiti, public art, private interiors, fine artwork, letterpress, land, body, photography, and digital works. An artist's role is to live a remarkable life and report back on it in their work, says Andrew. Andrew makes art to learn more about people and the world. Then he retells these stories in his work to offer perspective and peace, both for himself and for others seeking comfort through the arts. In this episode, we talk about a traumatic event in Andrew's childhood that has had an impact on how he lives his life and his art practice. We discuss the collaborative way he worked for the first part of his career and the route he took from skateboarding, graffiti and street art to full-time artist, with the completion of a science degree thrown into the mix. Andrew shares his process of working with clients to come up with their stories for him to creatively represent in his commissions. He talks of his fascination for hieroglyphics and the art of storytelling, and how he developed such an entrepreneurial approach to his art career. This is a great episode. I really enjoyed meeting Andrew, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy listening. Hello, Andrew.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me out here, Mandy.
Oh, you're very welcome. You've been for a swim at Muriwai Beach?
I have been for a swim at Muriwai Beach. It's a beautiful day out here. I got out here early. I was excited to be here, and I was like, you know what? I need to have a swim to start this.
Great way to start the flow.
Great way to start the day and start the flow.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, welcome to the Creative Matters podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me out here.
You're very welcome. And you are the first guest of Season 5. I'm so happy to get back into recording.
Wow, number one. Thank you so much. What a privilege.
What a privilege. Number 1 of Season 5. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your story. As I said to you earlier, I don't know if we've had an artist quite like you, who makes work quite like you make on the podcast. So yeah, looking forward to hearing the story. So can you tell us a little bit about where you're born and your childhood?
I sure can. I appreciate that too. I think you've had some wonderful artists out here, and I'm really proud to be a part of this. Number 1 at Season 5 is a privilege. So my name's Andrew J. Steele. I am a New Zealand-born artist. I was born and brought up in New Plymouth, Taranaki, New Plymouth. And I lived there from 0 to 18. I wasn't from a family of artists, but I kind of was surrounded by creative people growing up, and my family were quite academic, a science family, but all my friends were creative families. So it was quite an interesting place to grow up. It's a small town, rural New Zealand. Most people sort of got into rugby or cars, burnouts and stuff, and we sort of found a bit of way of filling our time and excitement through art and skateboarding, kind of like using our bodies and minds to find things to do in rural New Zealand.
What sort of art were you making?
So I think I came to skateboarding before art, and skateboarding is quite a creative pursuit. You're using your environment to to have fun with, to learn tricks on, practice, and you're looking at the urban environment, like how can I jump down this? How can I have fun with this, basically? And I think that, working with your body and committing to working in public space, it kind of naturally led into like the street art and graffiti things. So instead of skating here, we can paint here. And I think it's quite a common story from skateboarders to go down that path. And I think during that time, skateboarding was kind of in a boom, and as was sort of the street art thing was sort of starting out. It was kind of a boom of people painting with spray paint, and we were kind of captivated by that.
Yeah, I can really see the connection, actually. It's kind of responding to public spaces in different ways.
Yeah, that's a better way to say it. It's responding to public space.
Yeah, which is very cool. So what did you start doing with your art at that point?
I think at that point, we kind of got into the stenciling thing. When I say we, my best friend growing up was a guy called Damon Radford Scott, and his artist name is Malaki, and his family is a really creative family. So we sort of skated together from like 10, 11, 12, like quite young. And he kind of first exposed me to art. Like he was a really talented painter from get-go. And we sort of got together and we just skateboarded, and then we kind of got into a little bit of painting, but mainly stencil cutting. When I was young, I didn't know how to draw, I didn't know composition and do anything, but you could kind of sketch out or print out something offline, cut it out with a blade, and then you could reproduce an image. So it sort of started with stenciling. That was quite a like introductory to print and image making.
Yeah.
Damon and I kind of worked together from about 10 to I think it was about 25, so probably like 15 years doing stuff together. A couple of years. I'm now 36, but at around 25 to 30, we sort of went our separate ways. So we had a really good innings. We sort of had our own separate like artist thing that. Then we merged that together and created something called BMD. So that was kind of like the two of us with one artist name. So it was quite a collaborative approach to art, but for street art and public art, it allowed us to paint really large scale really quickly. So sort of 4 arms are better than 2, and 2 minds are better than 1, and that kind of allowed us to create new imagery that we both couldn't, new art that we couldn't do individually at larger scale quicker. So it was and it was really fun. Like we just had the time of our lives. Like we were best mates at the time,
and a great way to start your career is to have that sort of support from a friend and another creative.
Yeah, it's sort of, you keep each other accountable, and you get motivated, and again the fun element was a big part of it. Like it was really enjoyable to do that together.
Yeah, I bet. Can we go back to your childhood, Andrew? I know that you did suffer some trauma through your childhood years, and that has informed your practice and what you make and how you approach your practice now. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I had a lovely childhood in some regards, a very like working class rural New Zealand family and upbringing, very outdoorsy, beaches and family life. But I think as I got a little bit older, things started to derail. Life gets complicated for people, and my life was no different. And I think when I was about 12, we had a house fire, and my mum and dad had built this house, and it was my childhood home, and it was quite a special, it was my whole life had been there. And we actually had a teacher only day, and I was skateboarding. So I wasn't home, no one was home at the time. Cats and dogs were out, border collie was out, and but yeah, we got a call, and I was down the skate park. My friend's dad came, and my dad's sort of hard work. He wasn't very artistic, but he had like LED light windows, and he had a few beautiful things, and he'd obviously built this from the ground up. And we lost everything. Like the house burned to the ground, and all my clothes, all my mum's photos, all my mum's everything was just kind of gone.
That's so sad.
Yeah, it was pretty like whoa. At a young age, I realized that things can go wrong, and nothing lasts forever. And it's sort of, I think I was a little bit materialistic as a kid, like wanted cool skateboarding clothes and stuff, and it kind of was, none of that shit lasts or matters, it's sort of, everything's a bit temporary, and, you got to start from scratch and build up again. So it was horrific, obviously, but there's no loss of life, but it really shook up what physical things mean. Clothes don't really matter. It was like no one died. That's what's important.
Yeah, and you could even see that at age 12.
Yeah. But it was a hard few years after that, and all the sort of losing the house, and there's some marriage problems with my parents, and it was quite a difficult time. But I was quite young and unaware of things, but looking back on it now, I'm like, wow, that really shaped me and what I'd see in relationships and material items, and it's part of that made me like, art's actually more important, and it's not about having the fastest car or like, those things can crash and burn, you know.
Oh, that would have been such a stressful, really traumatic event. I just can't imagine how that would have felt.
Yeah, but I think again, it's trying to find silver linings and things. It did sort of encourage me to not pursue collecting the most stuff. And I collect a lot of art myself, and sort of changed what I value. Where I think skateboarding and stuff, it's kind of having the new stuff and the cool stuff, and I think it made me realize that there's so much, everything's temporary.
Yeah, which is a good lesson to learn.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really sad, isn't it? And so how did you go from there, coming into high school? How did you cope?
I think this is probably where art and skateboarding sort of saved. I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to have fun, and probably was a little bit of avoidant of home life, because it wasn't the most safe. Like, it was safe, sorry, to be fair, it was safe, but it wasn't the most comfortable environment. So I was out the house a lot, hanging out with my friends, skateboarding down at schools or skate park, and again, just distracting myself with art making, which again, that was kind of the blessing. I turned the hard times into like focusing on art. And I look back and I'm like, ooh, like some of the early stuff, that's not the coolest things, but I put a lot of time and focus on it to probably avoid some of the stuff going on at home.
Yeah, and it would have been so good for your well-being, I guess. Yeah,
absolutely.
And going through high school, were you starting to explore art in a big way? I know that you actually didn't start with art at the beginning, and you did a science degree. So what was the journey through high school and into university?
So my family was very academic. Dad was an engineer, and both my brothers were really good at maths and physics and stuff. And I was I'm still to this day am interested in that stuff too. I like to figure out how things work and how the world works and how people work. So through high school, I did a lot of the social sciences and more kind of biology and geography and stuff that, it's a bit softer sciences than physics. But so we went through high school, but, after school I was always making art and skating. But at school I was doing geography, it's like, so I wasn't doing art by day and night. It was sort of two different things. And once I finished, I went to Spotswood College, which is a beautiful, like, kind of low decile school, but really beautiful, co-ed. So I had lots of female friends and lots of male friends. It was quite a special time. But yeah, once I finished high school there, I moved down to Wellington and started at Victoria University doing a science degree. And so that's kind of where I think my art career sort of got. I got more into it. Like, being in a city like that, it's very vibrant. There's a lot more me's around, people that are interested in art, less interested in rugby. I was like, oh, this is the thing, and there's other cool people. And Damon and I moved down there together. He actually went to art school there, and I went to science school. And by day would do that, and by night would go out painting.
Wow, that's so amazing. And was science really sort of floating your boat at that time through university? Were you thinking it could be a career, or were you starting to wonder about what you could do with your art practice?
Yeah, I think most of the way through I was sort of doing it by default. Like, my family said I should do this. No one made me, but it was like my brothers are doing it. My dad had done it. I was like, this is the path that we're walking. And I enjoyed it, but I was like, where's this going? Like, I didn't really know. And even when I graduated, I was like, now what? Like, but by then it'd been 3 years doing undergraduate, and I painted like extensively, and sort of was like, this is what I want to do. This is the fun stuff. Do I want a job at the council? Or do I want a lanyard job that isn't that fun, and I probably want to enjoy it? And so I sort of made a decision. I was like, I'll give it a crack because I've committed to this degree. And I had a corporate job for about 2 months, and I think that's the last job I had.
Really? Last real job.
Last real job I had. Yeah, I was in and out.
Wow.
But even in the job interview there, she's like, you look like you're quite into your art, and like, are you going to stick around? Because, we don't want to waste your time. We don't want our time wasted. I was like, no, I'm here. And then 2 months later, I like sheepishly handed in my resignation. Really? Just like, you little shit.
Oh, it's so funny. She saw it even at that time. And
yeah. She probably saw it before I did, maybe.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. And I had a few other people around me at the time saying the same thing, like, don't you should do the art thing. And I think I dabbled around for a bit. Like, I think I didn't. There's this sort of people, including myself at that time, didn't really see art as a career choice, including my family. They're like, it's going to be a hard life, and this is not a career. This is a hobby, And I think my family and peers sort of saw it as that for a few years. But I think I've proved them wrong now.
You definitely have. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, how there are some families, probably most families, especially from 20 years ago, who just can't imagine how you could make a career out of art. And I was from a family like that too. I had two very academic brothers, and I just wasn't really interested in that side of life, And my parents, to this day, don't really understand what drives me, or what I'm passionate about. They don't really get it.
Yeah.
You know.
Not everyone's going to get it.
No, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's maybe it. When you grow up and you realize it's okay. They don't have to get it. I get it, and this is what I want to do.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
Yeah, for a few years, my mum hates it, but she wrote me kind of a firm email about my life choices and being an artist, and I actually just screenshot it and made that my artist bio.
Really?
And she was devastated because it was from a place of love and care.
Yeah.
But she was like, it was more or less like, what are you doing? I love you and I want you the best for you.
She was concerned.
Very concerned. It was like sweet screenshot shared, and it was hilarious.
Yeah.
And then just for years she was begging me to change it.
Really?
And, me and my mum are extremely close. So it was from a place of jest.
Yeah.
And she's my biggest supporter and always has been. But it was.
And she must be happy to see that you've made a career out of it.
Yeah. She's very proud, and a lot of it is I do for her. She's my best mate, and it's cool when I'm like, "What's up, Mum? This is what I'm doing." She's like, "So like, send me a photo," and she's like, I think I've made her proud, and I continue to try to do so.
Yeah, it's so lovely. Nothing like a good relationship with your mama.
Yeah, you know it.
Yeah. So how did you actually, take that plunge? What did you start doing at the beginning, and sort of how did you kickstart your career?
I think sort of after uni I was a bit lost. So I did an environmental science degree, and I worked for a corporate for 2 months on sustainability team, and I really care about people and the planet, and I'd spent all this time and money to learn about it and wanted to be contributing in a positive way, but also didn't want to lanyard job and clock in, clock out, and traffic, and 2.5 kids and a mortgage. It's not really where I want to go. So I sort of pulled back off that, and sort of tried to think what I wanted to do. But obviously you need to pay rent and buy food, and for a little while I was working at a cafe called Milk Crate in Wellington, and that sort of was a really interesting sort of transition, because Milk Crate was run by a guy called Ben Lennart, who's just the kindest, coolest dude, and there's quite a lot of artists that have gone through there, like to this day. Tom Mackey was there, Ed Batts, like quite established, like real wicked dudes. There's a crew of like young artists there, and I don't think Ben had tried to do it that way, but it was like an incubator, and we're just working there slinging coffees and making art, and kind of everyone was hanging out, and Ben let me do an interior mural there. So it was like the small little kind of, say, sort of German style cafe, just coffee and sandwiches, like quite minimal. And he kind of took it, rolled the dice, and said, "You could do like a feature wall here." So I took that opportunity and got another friend of mine, Blake Dunlop, to kind of capture the process and the final thing. And that was like the first time I'd had like a nice photo done, and my first interior. So it wasn't for money, but it created like the first portfolio image. I had an enormous amount of street art, but none of that's ever paid. That's usually illegal or naughty, or you've stolen paint to do it, or we used to, it was big bar and steel to make street art, where this was like, this is maybe how I climb out of just working for other people and making coffees for a living. I can have something to sell. And so that was kind of the first opportunity. But so sort of that was almost a segue into the next thing.
And what was that work like?
What was the artwork? It was illustrative, kind of. It was like a shitty version of what I do now. It was the draft one, but on a wall, and it's all right. But I think artists sometimes cringe on looking back on stuff.
Yeah, it's often the way.
I think it was all right, but how the process of capturing it and presenting it in the right way is kind of what I learned from that.
Yeah,
Blake's incredible photography and document it well, and once that goes online, people are, can I have that, but change it. And it's like, this is how things work. If they can see it, they might go, I like that, and I want part of that. So that's maybe where the business side has sort of started kicking, how to present and market, essentially.
Yeah.
That's kind of the transition. And
was that at that time, was that kind of just the work or the kind of drawings that you were doing, that sort of slightly comic
Yeah.
comic-y feeling.
Yeah, it's very illustrative and
illustrations.
kind of illustrative line work with some characters and some playfulness. So it wasn't the hieroglyphics, but it was kind of similar to that sort of style where it was playful and it was kind of referencing like the Egyptians did, like birds with human bodies, and it's like those kinds of forms that were in the early stages, and I've since sort of refined that.
Oh, that's so good.
Mm.
Sometimes an opportunity like that can just sort of change the way you head in a way. So what happened after that?
So then I sort of trying to climb out of working. I'm a hard worker for myself, but I also like freedom. So I had to do a few they call it FIFO, fly in, fly out jobs, like just the worst like stuff. But those jobs often pay well. So I went to India for a few trips for like a month, and I come back with like $5,000, and I thought I was a millionaire, because
Really?
it's a lot of money, but it's also at that age I was like, yes, and then that means cool. I would block out that's like 2 or 3 months of living, and that means I can paint, and just I'd sort of do that regularly. And
were you getting jobs from here in India, or did you just?
It was
go to
actually an
India?
American company, but my dad had worked for them, and I think he'd sort of said like my son could, fly in, fly out if you need him, sort of thing. And so I went to India a couple of times, and I went to South America and Chile. It was just like a month at a time. So I think I only did 3 or 4, but that was kind of almost enough for a year, so a couple of months
that's
between
great.
it.
And good for your portfolio.
Yeah. I sort of did a little bit of art making along the way, but it was mainly just being labour and just.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't actually art making at that
No,
point.
no. It was like the opposite. It was like shitty industrial work.
Oh, right.
But I was like, cool, I can sacrifice this month of 3 months of art making, So I sort of saw it as a bit of a trade off.
Right.
Instead of like 5 days a week and then a weekend to make art, I was like,
Yeah.
do a month solid. This sucks. I'm away from girlfriends and family and art, but I can come back and so I did these really terrible industrial jobs just to free up some time and money. And I did one, and I was like, never again. Like, I don't want to do this. And that's kind of what really ramped up me trying to like, how can I make a living from art? And I was sort of just trying to slowly climb out of that. And I actually started window cleaning after that for a little while, because we were working with scissor lifts and gantries and abseiling and stuff for our street art. I was like, okay, this is a cool way to learn how to get bigger. I was like, cool, this is the next step. So I did that for maybe half a year for a company, hoping to like get my abseiling tickets and all the qualifications. And I was like, this sucks too. I didn't love this. But I actually stole a bit of their gear, which I'm not proud about. But they were horrible to the employees. And that's when I started one of my first businesses, which was called Well Mannered Window Cleaners. So I used to just go around and clean cafes and windows at houses and stuff. Again, I was just trying to work for myself. But again, I was breaking my back, doing something I didn't want to do and not making money from art. So I sort of done all these shit jobs that nothing was landing for money. So I just want to do art. So I need to find a way to make a living from this without selling my soul. But, it's a hard balance to me. I definitely didn't want to clean windows. I definitely didn't want to go back to some corner of like some shitty industrial job. I was like, none of that was gonna fly. So yeah, I just leaned heavily into art again. I was just like, there's got to be a way. Keep painting, keep going.
Your practice seems very diverse, and you seem to be such an sort of entrepreneur and running a really slick business, as well as being an amazing artist. So how did you get to that point? And were you thinking, was that kind of your goal to get there? Had you kind of thought, this is what I want to create, and then how am I going to get there? Or did you just kind of build up as you went and it became this?
I think a big part of it was necessity, right? Like I wanted to do art. I needed to live, pay rent, fuel, all the shitty costs of life that you can't escape. And I didn't want to work for anyone else. I didn't want to sling coffees. I didn't want to break my back cleaning windows. I definitely didn't want to be doing an industrial, dangerous job on the corner somewhere I didn't want to be. So it was a lot of a necessity. I didn't study business or anything, but I think maybe from a science background, I was sort of maybe analytical, like how does the world work, and how does art business work, and I sort of was like just a bit like kind of a little bit of left brain, right brain. Yeah, I love creativity, but also I love how things work and studying and trying to find a way to a goal. Like what's the process to get there? So I think around that time, that's kind of when social media was sort of on the scene too. Instagram had just started coming out, which became a really good marketing tool for art. So I've always been quite fun with my art and quite fun with presenting it, and tried to present it in quite a high caliber way. So I think when that sort of started to sprout up, we had like MySpace pages, and but it didn't get traction with it. Where Facebook and Instagram, they sort of allowed people to see it across the world, and across the country and across the world. Where for a long time, public art was only seen in the public; you had to be there. But like a good example is like, no, I've never seen a Banksy, but he's a household name, because of the internet. And a lot of like living artists, modern artists, was able to become household names and spread and sell and storytell to wider audiences through the internet. So that's probably a point where that was like, I can do an artwork here at Milk Crate, I can shoot it really well, and I can share it, and that might attract people to my work. And so we kind of early in those days, Instagram was literally Instagram. It was like coffees and out for a walk with my dog. And now it's really refined and polished and heaps of editing, and it's like a different beast now. In those days, it was quite raw and in the moment, like that's where it started and was intended to be. So we kind of came in early and hot with that. And in New Zealand, we're able to build quite a little audience early and quickly. Yeah, so we were kind of at a spot where our street art was everywhere, and then we started to use social media, so we were kind of getting digitized. I've sort of always had a philosophy of the art of being everywhere at once. The more people see your work, they will be familiar with it, and over time, some people will like it and want to buy it or want to be around that. So sort of you stickers here, a mural here, interior here, a website here, social media here. It's like boom, boom, boom. You kind of trying to go, hello, like I'm here,
covering
I
all
exist.
the bases.
Yeah, I exist, and look at me. Yeah, it is a bit of an attention grabbing game. To all marketing kind of is.
Yeah. Over time, you became an established artist in your own right, and very sort of well regarded. And you seem like you're very, very busy. You've got all sorts of things going on, which is amazing. So can you just tell us about your practice, and can you tell us what the work looks like and where it comes from?
Yeah, that's my work is it's sort of an interesting thing. I always say that people used to call the police if I painted their fence. Now people hope I paint their fence, which is such a weird, it's a global transition of graffiti and street art was sort of lowbrow and frowned upon to now it's desirable. And I've sort of tried to help with that transition. Like a lot of artists go, we're not bad boys, we're actually nice guys, and we want to, I think there's some fun in doing something naughty. That's what, there's some naughtiness with street art. That's a huge appeal. But I think there's been a bit of a transition in sort of the public mind of the value of street art and public art. So yeah, we sort of tried to upgrade how we presented things, how we conducted ourselves. So working in a cafe, you deal with people. Window cleaning, I was going to nice homes to clean windows. Sort of taught me a little bit of social skills with interacting with people. So it helped me climb out of the streets a little bit into homes and galleries, and with architects and stuff like that. A little bit of social skills has been quite a helpful thing to upgrade my practice and get it in place I never would have thought was possible. Like, so I've got incredible projects and clients that I've worked with, and I'm just like, wow, like you really want me to draw on that? Like, am I allowed to? Like, yeah. And there's a lot of pinch me moments that I still have like weekly now, and I feel very lucky. But
it's so great, and your work is really full of, well, it's separate illustrations, isn't it? But which are quite symbolic.
Yeah, so with that the people skills and interaction, I really like to learn about their lives to tell the stories. So the sort of Egyptians, I like the simplicity of the Egyptian storytelling. So it's like simple imagery. This is the harvest season. This is the pharaoh. This is the who's who and the social zoo. This is the tax system. There's all the hieroglyphics is kind of a time capture of what the story was at the time and whatever, And I because I'd never did art school, I didn't know how to paint a horse to look like a horse, but I could do a little, a caricature of a horse. So it sort of was, I like the simple illustration technique that they've sort of established, and I want to sort of try and use my kind of have like a modern take on that classic style. So I sort of use that to bring people into my process. So what's your story? You do like horses, you ride horses, your son's on a super yacht or whatever, and I could kind of take those stories and turn that into like a simplified hieroglyph of that. So a person on a boat or a horse jumping over something, and it's kind of a turning words into imagery sort of
I love
thing.
that. And that's such a beautiful process to go through with your clients.
Yeah, it's probably the favorite part of my job.
It's very intimate.
It's a little bit like this, like a podcast or a therapy session or something. I'm getting to learn like quite intimate personal stories, to draft up the work, to create the work, to embed it in their lives, and either on their walls or in their canvas or something. It's beautiful. It might be a couple hour session, or if they live away, it's on the phone or on email.
That's lovely.
It's usually about people's tragedies and triumphs, their values, their kids or their pets, or like they're just like some really interesting, or like really niche like Easter eggs. Like someone might want that. Can we have a sign of 1, 2, 3? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I'll be like, so 1, 2, 3. I was trying to date this person. I used to see him at the pool, so I'd hold up numbers, like how good his dive was.
Really?
And so really, really niche. Like so only they would know that.
Yeah.
And so that people bring me in on these like really interesting, beautiful moments.
That's
that,
really
there might be a
beautiful.
sign with 1, 2, 3 on it. So at a glance, other people might not get it.
Yeah.
But they get it, and then it's also a conversation. So their friends come around, their parents are like, "Oh, I remember the 1, 2, 3," and then it's on the wall.
Totally.
So it kind of weaves in these really personalized things that it's a real privilege for me to get to know these people, to go through that, walk that path with them.
Yeah, I love that so much, and that's such a unique thing to do, and to for them to actually have to think about it as a family or as a couple or whatever, what do we want to say about ourselves, is amazing for them to go through.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then share it with you, and then for you to take that to where you take it.
Yeah, absolutely. So sometimes it's a single person, sometimes it's a couple, sometimes it's their kids. Like I've sat down and had like a dinner for 3 hours, and we're all just jotting and chatting, and I take like a list and then go off for the night, come back with drawing. So little Susie like surfing, like everyone's got their bit. It's they have their family time, and then I get to be brought into that, and then we all kind of collaborate on this final thing. It's kind of a little bit of the difference in my approach, where artists often make work and then hopefully people like it and buy into it. I sort of bring them into the making process right from the start, sort of flipped it on its head.
Yeah.
So the whole approach is collaborative for that sort of commission hieroglyphic work.
Yeah, it's such a personal thing that you're offering. It's really quite a touching thing for them to go through, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've recently done a project for a family, and they've just lost their son, which was obviously horrific. And most of my projects, people have done well, and they're celebrating by purchasing art or something. This was kind of a tragedy, but that personalization storytelling was beautiful. So we got to sit down, I got to learn about this beautiful young man and their family, and like the sisters and brothers all collaborated on it. And it was like, again, I was trying to make a silver lining out of it. So I did a massive feature wall in their family home of him. And I gifted the family back. I redrew the whole artwork and did like an edition print for them to give to his friends at school. So like it's like kind of remembering the kid and turning a tragedy into like a beautiful remembrance thing.
Yeah, and celebrating
his life, and like this kid was the man. Like, and clearly look how cool his life was, and he lived a remarkable life, just cut short. But I think that process was healing for that family, and hopefully that's for his friends now at school.
That's just the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. I think that it's really special, and it's such a unique sort of niche market or sort of a niche practice that you've developed. I mean, it seems like this is something quite, hasn't been done that much before.
Yeah, I don't know. I find those things quite beautiful. I was taken back too, like from the get go. I was like, wow, this is crazy, and
such an honour to be asked.
Yeah, such an honour to be asked, and I spent quite a bit of time with the family and the school and the kids, and it was a real tragedy. But again, I was trying to do something caring and kind through the only thing I can do, which is art. Like I'm not a surgeon. I'm not I'm not a lawyer. But one thing I can do, I can learn about people and help you remember them and celebrate them and try and make it a bit fun. Like turn a tragedy into some sort of positive memory, a celebrant of life rather than a loss.
And it's such a lovely way to celebrate that life, to have a beautiful artwork in your home.
Yeah.
Which will always, as you said, sort of encourage lots of discussion about the person or about the family, or what the story is.
Yeah.
Which is lovely as well. It's like it's got many sort of aspects to it. You know, the initial talk that the people are going through, and then that whole process is just so rich.
Yeah. That's my favourite part of it.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I think in another life I would have loved to be a therapist and talk and learn about people.
Well, I think you're doing that.
Yeah.
You're just not titled therapist.
Yeah, no, I'm titled artist, but it's a real privilege. The art's kind of the byproduct of a beautiful interview often, you know. It's like a podcast, right? It's the final output's the thing online, but it's pretty cool to sit down and talk to someone.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally. Absolutely. So when you have a commission for a private client inside, how do you go about choosing the space and then working out the composition?
So my work is very focused on composition. I try to keep it really gridded and tidy. So when I get approached, often, if I can, I go see the space in real life, but often it's someone sends me an image. Sometimes they know the wall and it's done, and sometimes they might send me a series of possibilities in a property. And I sort of suggest what I think would be cool, and often do a quick kind of like map. Like, could be square, it could be a grid, or it could be how I could use the space. So, and I've got a good iPad that I can kind of quickly do some quick layout. So trying to bring people through the process so they can consider it. And then obviously like the portfolio, so kind of like this or kind of like that, but what about this spin on it too? You know, kind of we're trying to walk a path together to see what I can do and what I suggest would look cool there. So yeah, it's just like that storytelling. It's bringing them in on it and sort of trying to find what's the coolest thing we can do here.
And I love the way you've got sort of an imaginary line around your work, which seems to be a little bit of a feature of yours.
Yeah, no, I think composition is really important for me. It's probably quite a graphic and illustrative approach to it, where I try to keep it balanced and a little bit ridiculous too. You know, like it's all gridded in a square often, or following a line of a room. Like I might follow a roof line or a wall line or a window height. Or, you know, I usually try and find a few features in the room that will match, so it kind of fits the space. Because working on a wall, you're embedding into the property. It's not a painting that you can move around. It's like, it is a bit of a call. Like, we're going to have this for life or for a very long time. You kind of want to get it right. So just looking at it and thinking, what would fit in here? What's sort of seamless or not going to disrupt the flow of it. So sort of focus on that and. It's trying to just work through what would look coolest there for them and what do they think would work.
And it's so great painting straight onto the wall. I mean, that's bringing that street art element obviously into somebody's home, but it's just such an effective way of working, isn't it? And it's something that you don't see very much. Yeah.
I think it's a natural progression. I think some fine art students start to try and paint on a wall, but I'm like, You've just been painting on canvases at Elam and you think this is cool now, but you see people come and go trying to do stuff. But I painted huge walls for 10 years, and then now I get to do beautiful smaller walls. But I learned the approach, painting big and working at scale really young. I was working on ladders and under bridges and Damon's holding it, I'm up there and vice versa. And we were getting scissor lifts and I've always thinking working on a wall at scale is quite remarkable. But with the composition too, I have fun with it. So it's quite graphic and tidy, but there might be a cat that's enormous and a human that's tiny. And so the composition at a far away vantage is balanced and tidy, but up close everything's distorted and playful and out of character.
And unexpected.
Unexpected, yeah. There's a naiveness to it, which I like. It's always got to be playful and fun.
Yeah, and it definitely is that. And how do you go about choosing colour? Obviously, black is a colour you use a lot, but some of your works do have colour. Yeah. How do you decide what the colour palette is going to be?
I think the choice of colours, I think interiors lends itself to quite minimalist sort of approach for my style of work. And again, I think it's because it's an investment to have it on your wall for quite a long time. It's more of a safe bet. So most of my interiors are quite minimalistic and black, white, or maybe one accent color, the green, or bring some nature into it. For people who have plants, or sort of look around. I've done stuff where they had like a lot of copper or brass, like taps or something, and cool, I might use a bit of that. So again, it's trying to fit in with what they appreciate and like, and the spaces, the other decisions that have already been made, so to kind of fit it in. But for my like fine art practice and digital stuff, and that's where I can play with more color. Like it's a canvas can be moved, it can change, and its environment's flexible. Where a feature wall is fixed. So that sort of style is often minimal in black and white monochrome, and then the other mediums I play with are way more vibrant and a bit more. I can take a bit more risks. And,
a bit more out there.
Yeah, yeah.
And I love the way you play with composition and space, and some of your works are very crowded, and some have quite a lot of space in between them, which is a really lovely difference between your work, I think. But it still feels like your work, and your work is. It seems like you've started something that's really quite original. How do you find it when you see people making work that feels like yours?
Yeah, I've had this problem lots, and I think it used to irk me more than it does now. I'm not the first person to paint on a wall. I'm not the first person to organise things tidily. I've referenced work, I've referenced other artists in my work, but I personally try to reference, not copy. There's a fine line, and I don't know. I think you pave your own path, but when you've got a good thing going, people are going to come, and I think when you see kids do it, I'm like, that's kind of cool, because like you learn the ropes. Like I've had kids, I've done stuff with schools, and I think when you're a bit more established, like maybe when you're 20 plus, you should know better. And it still frustrates me, but I think authenticity over time is what prevails. But yeah, it's hard to be original, and I do own that. I've referenced stuff, I do. Like we're all DJs remixing things into our lives and our practice, but you want to have the remix. You can't just play the same record.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And you are working quite a lot, obviously, with private clients. Have you done much work in the commercial field or corporate field?
Yeah. So from the street art side, I sort of gravitated from large public murals to social media, and then that social media translated to like commercial projects. So a lot of advertising, a lot of commercial spaces. So, and I had kind of a window where I was quite busy in that space doing a lot of campaigns for companies, and it was always fun. I got a lot of creative freedom and choice to do stuff. Like I'd paint a whole car, or people would come to me for the art, but also the idea, which was it was a bit of a creative director art sort of role. And I enjoyed that at the start, but it came quite like I was like, I didn't sign up for this. I'm not a money man. I'm not a materialist that sort of do it. I like nice things, but I'm not here to be the richest artist. Like that's not the goal. So it was kind of, it got to be a bit like meaningless and soulless. But I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this for a couple of years, and I'm going to stack some cash. And then again, I can buy time to not do this ever again. So I kind of had a window to quite heavily busy, like 7 days a week. Doing like art for companies and brands, some really cool stuff, and some stuff I was like, it was definitely like for the money, but I was like, I don't want to do this forever. I don't want to, I don't want to continue this role. So I use that to catapult out to not doing it ever again. It's like, it sort of feels like I've sort of climbed out, I'm climbing towards freedom. Every choice I've made through my career. Yeah. I don't want to work for someone. I don't want to go to the shitty job somewhere. I don't want to do ads anymore. Each time I'm trying to just climb to freedom to do what I want.
And it sounds like you're really already in that position, which is amazing.
Yeah. So I think after that, like I've definitely taken a financial hit, but I've got enough to get by, and I have a lot more fun and freedom, that's the goal.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
I'm not trying to be loud and proud and rich as Maserati, whatever. I was like, I've got enough. Everything's pretty cool. I'm so fucking lucky.
Yeah. And you're doing what you love.
Yeah. And then I get to pick and choose. So things come my way now. And I'm, I don't want to do that. And I do really want to do that. Like that project I was saying about the kids, it's like, this is why I'm doing it, When things like that come up, or really interesting, iconic New Zealanders, and I get to learn their story for work, I'm like, yes, this is so cool.
Yeah.
Like the people that I'm working with now is really by choice and who I want to.
That's so good. Well done. And you also, alongside the large form work, you are making paintings, and you've also done some photographic prints and done some interesting digital work with photographs. So can you tell us about the other side of your practice?
So I've sort of worked heavily on walls, but I've also been very experimental with other mediums. I think part of what I enjoy is kind of getting in the lab and like playing with different materials and mediums, and being experimental. So a lot of it is like I might try 20 different things: tiles, spray paint, enamel, epoxy, ceramics, and then I'm like, oh, that was really fun, or it was really cool. I like to learn. I don't want to be a one race pony, like kind of keep one trick pony, keep learning and keep trying new things. So I think over lockdown, it's where I kind of got into I've always loved droning, but I was like, well, I can't paint in people's homes. I like working at scale, but I can get a drone and a rake and I can go down the beach because we're allowed to. So I sort of was thinking of how I can make art and also sell art. So over that time, I was also just trying to keep bills paid and things. So I was like, well, I want to keep making art. I want to keep selling stuff. So I used to just take the drone out and carve large scale hieroglyphics into the land, and drone that and shoot that and kind of document that process. And instead of telling a story for a client, I'd often try and tell a story about the space. So I'd go out to Te Arai or out at Bethel's Beach, and I'd sort of learn a few things about it. Create it, there's a fish and a dolphin and a shark and maybe a native plant, or loosely hieroglyphed into it. Drone that, and then how I'd talk about it is I'd reference the history and some of the things I've learned about it, and here's the print from that. So again, it was allowed me to create at scale, allowed me to sell something to people.
Yeah.
And it was all temporary too, which I quite liked. The tide comes in and it's gone. So the print was kind of the physical leftover of it to have. And I think New Zealand's such a beautiful coastal country that kind of resonated with people. And I did quite a lot over lockdown since then. I've sort of been busy again. But I've got a few I want to do, but it's trying to find the time. Same excuse as everyone, but. And beyond that, I think another thing was just tiles and like kind of hard materials. Over lockdown, there's no art shops open, so it's like, I can't go out and spray paint. I can't go in people's homes. I've got like 2 canvases, but you know what's open? Bunnings.
Yeah.
So I went there and I'd do online orders or click and collect or whatever, and just started buying real weird stuff like heaps of glue. What can I do with this? And okay, a bunch of tiles, I'd smash them up, and that's kind of where I got into a bit of mosaicing. And again, it was sticking to the graphic similarity of hieroglyphics often, like what's the different mediums I could play with: metalwork, steelwork, wood, so it was. There's nothing else to do that time, right?
Yeah, I love that.
Out at the beach carving out hieroglyphics, or I was at home just putting puzzle mosaics together.
Yeah, which is so good. And lockdown was amazing in that way for many artists. I mean, it seemed to either stop artists from even thinking.
Yeah.
For some artists, they just found it was like, can't work, can't think.
Yeah.
And then other artists just kind of found a whole new space for, pushing their boundaries, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's got an interesting connection to your sort of science brain, hasn't it?
Yeah, no, it does. It was sort of, things like that can make or break a person, right? Like, I think it was a wild time. Everyone was not sure what's going to happen. And some people were really prolific. They're like, finally, I don't have to be in traffic. I can finally focus on art. And I was probably in the middle. I was like, oh, the world's ending, but might as well make a table,
Yeah.
It was cool. But yeah, I get out in nature a lot. I'm from a family of camping and boating and fishing and cooking and hiking and all that sort of stuff. So I think art can often be quite a urban production and sort of selling, business, But I love getting out to nature to learn and enjoy life. And some of those works was trying to combine the two. So beyond the hieroglyphics on the beach, I do a lot of droning and photography out in nature, and then I can digitize artwork. So I've done a few works where, I shoot some cool photos and I look at it, and again, it's composition. Well, it's a breaking wave. How can I add something to that? Or it's a mountain, and like someone could be sitting on it. So it's sort of going out to cool places, documenting that, and then trying to turn that into work. A lot of those works aren't for sale, just for fun.
But they're so good.
Yeah,
and you can see
it's funny or hilarious.
That lovely sense of humour that really comes through all of your work.
Yeah. I try to have fun with it. I think for a few years there I got a bit serious, and I'm feeling really funny again.
Yeah,
I'm trying to be, like again, I think after lockdowns and I've had a few breakups, and there's hard years there for everyone. I think you live out here in beautiful Middleway, and you've had floods, and it's been it's been a weird few years.
Landslides.
And I personally feel, I don't know where you're at, but I feel like we're kind of on the other side. Sun's out,
Yeah.
the gardens are looking good.
Yeah, it's so good just, feeling the sun again,
Yeah.
We really haven't had sun since January. And it's almost like, the sun comes out and everyone just kind of blossoms like a flower.
Yeah, the moon picks up.
Yeah.
The communities, everyone's saying hi again. And yeah, I'm going out in a boat tomorrow, which I'm really excited with. Gavin Try and Al Fernando and a few other artists. And I'm like, artist on a boat, like, sign me up. Nature and art talk. It's going to be wonderful.
Yeah, can't beat that.
Yeah.
And so you, back to your paintings, you do paintings on canvas, don't you?
Yeah, so I didn't go to art school. I was always a bit resentful of canvas painting. I've always thought it was a bit easy. Like, you're sitting in your nice studio, you're not getting chased by cops. you can put a podcast on, and I was sort of a bit resentful of the art graduate and the fine art kid. But as I've grown up, I'm like, you know what, it's all cool. What people are making is cool. And I sort of was, I was always working at scale, and I thought a canvas was quite limiting. So it sort of I came late to the canvas thing, but in the last sort of 4 or 5 years, I've tried to focus more on it. It's probably still not my main focus, but I've just moved into a really big new studio out west here, and it's a game changer. Before that, I was working on like one painting at a time. Now I'll be able to have like 10 on the go. I might be able to put like a show or at least a series together a lot easier. I sort of do little series, but it might be 4 or 5 because I'll be tripping over them at home. Now I can literally have 5, 10 paintings on the wall and just. So I think over the next few years, I think the marathon of what I'm doing will lean itself into that a bit more.
And what are the paintings like?
I've kind of, it's probably experiment with a bit more color and risk and the hieroglyphics is probably what I'm most known for, but I also don't want to be that one trick pony. So that sort of medium allows me to try new ideas and have fun. Or sometimes I've done some more meaningful pieces, like more thoughtful, different kinds of stories, and sometimes it's just ridiculous. Again, it's humor. I feel like canvas is often where I have a bit more fun and experiment. I've kind of honed in on the storytelling through the hieroglyphs, but I've also got more to do, more other ideas and aesthetics and things to play with.
Yeah, and more to say.
It sort of allows a new style. It's like a different outlet.
And some of those paintings do feel like the work that we know of yours, but some of it's quite different, isn't it?
Yeah, I try to. It's where I have a bit more fun and rest. Yeah. Yeah.
So that could become sort of another arm of your practice, I guess.
Yeah, I started doing a series. I've done a few of them. It was kind of trying to be a hybrid between the two. I'm calling the works like kind of personality portraits. So with the hieroglyphs, I learn about people and I tell their stories kind of in a tidy grid, referencing their life. With the personality portraits, I'm sort of trying to focus on, let's say, 4 or 5 things and doing a portrait of a person. So it's different. It's like portraiture or still life, but of a person. So the person might be in it, or it might be just their favorite things. Could be like surfboard, border collie, boat, whatever. And it's kind of composing it in that way. And I've done a few for friends. I've had a couple of commissions. It's where I was like, wanted to do a show with it, and then I just started getting commissions. Oh, cool!
Wow.
Like, cool. I didn't even need to.
Yeah.
So I've done one on myself, and I've done a few. I've probably done 5 or 6 of these now.
That self-portrait's amazing.
Yeah. It's fun. But yeah, trying to encompass some personalization into a portrait. But I did one.
Playing with paint a bit more is interesting to see after your sort of illustrative style. I love the way you work with paint, especially that self-portrait. I love that.
Yeah. I think it's a bit more of like, okay, I don't need markers, black and white. There's some of them I'm trying to use no black. Like I'm like trying to go completely like a different approach and different mediums, playing with like I got a airbrush for like rendering and just trying to try new things. I did one. I've done a few now, but I did one for Al Brown, who's one of my favourite New Zealanders, and it's like his daughters, his fishing, and I went up to his place and got to shoot him there. So then I can kind of like, his daughters went there, but I can get photos and add them in, sort of superimpose it, and then I paint that. And again, it's like his 5 favorite things: his daughter's fishing, shooting, food,
Food.
wine,
Yeah.
and fish on the wall, and you can have a bit of fun with it. So
Yeah.
I want to explore that more. I want to do a show or something eventually, but I'm trying to carve out a bit of time to do it. But this new studio will probably allow some projects like that too.
Because you've sort of gathered so much momentum, I guess.
Yeah,
It must be quite hard to kind of pull away and focus on something else.
yeah. You need to hang up the boots, I think, in life to really commit to something like that.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of fine artists do. They sort of block out a few months or a year, whatever amount of time, and they don't do anything but work on their show, and then they have an exhibition. Never kind of done that, but something like that kind of needs that space to do.
Yeah, totally. Speaking about having an art exhibition, you're not represented by a dealer gallery or any gallery in particular, probably for obvious reasons at the moment. But if you do end up developing that other side of your practice, do you think you'd like to be connected to a gallery in some way?
Yeah, I think I've sort of carved out a different approach to art and art selling than the conventional make some work and work with the gallery and sell it. I think I've always enjoyed going direct to people who enjoy my art, and I've never had representation by a gallery. One of my best friends, Al Fernanda, runs Fernanda Galleries, and she's incredible. And you've had some of her artists through these doors on these mics, and I really like learning how she runs it and what she does. She's just an incredible woman and so supportive of the arts. So I think some galleries can really support artists, and they really do a service to the art community and getting art in front of people. The exposed work. But I think at the moment I like my direct contact with people, and I think again my process is quite personalised. But I think what I've learned is there's different ways to do it. Right, some artists really suit that setting. There's other ways to skin the cat. You can you can social media or public art. There's other ways to actually capture attention, get your work in front of people.
And I think you might lose that beautiful part of your process where you're working with people, potentially, if you're with a gallery, maybe.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I guess you just got to keep an open mind, and there's all sorts of ways, as you say, to skin the cat. I mean, you could keep going with that work and then still have other parts of your practice, or, making prints of some of your large works, or, there's really so much potential with the kind of work that you do.
Yeah. I think the fine art and the prints and some of that stuff could lend itself to that. So you reserve your interiors, or you reserve party practice for direct to customers, and then someone wants a painting, you go, "I'll go talk to this person." Yeah, that's probably likely my future. Because also it's a management. Galleries work very hard and can take a lot of work off an artist to help them actually paint.
Exactly.
There's a lot of benefits they bring, and I watch how hard Al works and what she does for artists, and it's really cool to see.
Yeah, she's amazing. And just an odd question: how do you feel about the art world in New Zealand at the moment?
Ooh, the art world in New Zealand. I probably hang on the periphery of it, to be honest. I don't have dealer galleries. I don't work with galleries. I go to shows, and I've got a handful of artist friends. But a lot of my friends aren't artists. I quite like a diverse group of people. I go to the Auckland Art Fair and art shows, and I think it's pretty good. It's healthy. I think there's a bit of inequality in New Zealand. So there's some people buying a lot of art and supporting art at a higher level, but then I think some everyday New Zealanders are struggling, and that they're not maybe able to access art as much as so people doing well and some people not doing so well, and the art's going one way, not the other way. So it's an interesting time, but there's some cool stuff. There's some really cool stuff. I've got some friends doing some remarkable stuff. Yeah, I don't have my finger on the pulse too much, I sort of I focus on me, and I want everyone to win, and there's enough piece of pie for everyone, and just everyone have fun.
Yeah, and that's a good way to be, really, isn't it? So what do you do when you're not making art? Are you still skateboarding?
I'm too old and sore to skateboard, but I still follow skateboarding. I reckon it's still the coolest sport. It's really fun use of public space. When I'm not making art, I'm swimming heaps. I love nature. Get out as much as I can. I've got a boat, so I'm a big boatie. The little Haynes Hunters. I can zip around and go fishing and droning and swimming and drinking wine and beer, and just I love. We're one of the most beautiful countries in the world. And then I'm a bit of a family man. I've just had my brother's had a baby, so I'm an uncle now. Amalia, and you've got a dog called Marley, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool.
And I hang out with my mum, and I've got a really good close knit group of friends that I spend as much time as I can with.
And you love dogs. You don't have your own dog.
I really want a dog, but because I travel so much for work and for fun, it'd be unfair to have a border collie. But it's absolute pleasure to see one today.
Yes, it's so fun. I mean, so nice that you grew up with border collies, and then Marty came out to greet you. So.
Oh, it's the best start to the day ever.
Yeah, so good. He's been a little bit high maintenance as we've been recording, but hey, he's a puppy.
He's been a good boy. He's a good boy.
Okay, so shall we get on to the final questions?
Yeah, sure.
What would you say to your younger artistic self?
I would say to my younger artistic self that keep going. Fight your own fights. Don't fight other people's fights. Use your art to tell stories and probably just have some confidence in what you're doing. So I think, like a lot of artists, there's a lot of crippling self-doubt. And I've actually got a little canvas at home, and I've got make it as an artist or make it as, and I've like crossed out numerous things because it's like you'd have a good year, then you'd have a bad year, you'd have a good month, a bad month. And I've thought about quitting so many times.
Really?
And especially younger, I think regularly, but last few years I'm like, no, I'm never quitting. I'm in.
Yeah.
But I think just be confident, younger me. And I had like therapist crossed out, then I had like lawyer crossed out, and back to science crossed out. And, I've always had like a fake plan B, but realistically, I love what I do and I'm confident. Be confident and just don't worry about it. Just do what you want to do.
And I love the way you are sort of incorporating some of those crossed out plan B ideas in what you're doing now, like therapist.
Yeah,
scientist.
Yeah, I'm an art therapist.
Yeah, which is really cool. You actually are. Which artists inspire you or influence you in your work?
I've got a few I really like. I spent a bit of time in Los Angeles. And there's a guy called Cleon Pedersen over there. He's very figurative, illustrative work, and quite dark. I'm probably a bit more of a light-hearted storyteller. He was an ex-heroin addict, skateboarder, and just a really troubled dude. And he makes a lot of work about what he saw on the streets and just the humanity or lack of. It's a lot of like violence and drugs and abuse and beautiful imagery, but quite dark. But I love that. And he's obviously climbed out of that too. He's become he's gone from hell as an addict to heaven as I'm making art, and he's done really incredible projects. He's done, I know you're into your sailing. He's done like sail artworks, and he's gone literally from hell to like really loved and respected and admired. And I think that the story of that's cool. I've had some tragedies, and you can keep going and climb out of it. But his work's also really beautiful too. Another artist I really like is a guy I spent a bit of time with in LA was Tristan Eden. His aesthetic, his art itself is probably not what I love about him. It's him. He's like a larger than life personality, and spending time with him and his energy and his motivation, his commitment, he's just like a good dude to be around, and I quite like that. Like he's a force. He's an artwork in himself, and I think that's contagious, and it kind of goals to be. Like he's just like this high energy, highly enthusiastic dude.
As an artist, what do you think is your biggest challenge?
I think as an artist, my biggest challenge is just kind of keeping disciplined and focused and motivated. I can get caught up in the problems of the day in the world, and I can get disheartened. I've had like minor, probably like cocaine and alcohol problems. Freedom and time as an artist, you got to use carefully, and there's lots of distraction, social media, and there's dumb shit that can get you off a paintbrush, and just try and stay focused on that, and be level of self-awareness, have fun, but not too much, as long as you keep making work. And I think I've seen artists completely fall over on dumb shit, and to be self-aware enough to keep going, keep healthy, and keep like being of service to yourself, so you don't get in the way of not making art. You want to keep making art, don't trip up,
and being service to others, which you are. What drives you to make the kind of work you make, or the work you do?
I'm driven by wanting, like, probably on personal, just freedom, and then on that level too, I love learning about the world and people. So the stories and the people I get to meet to tell their stories is just this is like the coolest job ever. I get to go into beautiful places or weird places, and the paths I've walked without trying or without expecting to has been amazing. It's never a dull moment, and it's a real privilege to be able to meet people and learn about them and leave a piece behind for them. It's pretty remarkable.
Such a privilege.
Such a privilege.
Yeah. Oh, well, Andrew, we've done really well to keep it kind of near-ish to 1 hour, which is my new goal for season 5.
Follow your goals.
We were starting to go on and on in a good way. So it's been an absolute joy to meet you. I think you have a beautiful energy, and I think what you're doing for some of those people is, incredible. And I think you are a therapist in your way, and I've loved having you here in the studio and meeting Marley. And I think your work's incredible, and it's so inspiring to see the way that you manage your business and kind of have your fingers in so many pies and are so successful at it. So thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. Very kind words, and it's been an absolute privilege. It's a beautiful space. This is a dream studio. You've got a dream dog. You've got a really good thing going here. So thank you so much for bringing me out.